Buenos días, queridos televidentes, y bienvenidos a su noticiero preferido, Ed Noticias. Les habla su presentador Emilio Ruiz, y en esta ocasión tendremos una edición especial titulada Ecuador a todo color, de la mano de sus queridísimos reporteros Joseph Burget, David Hidalgo, Tomás Molina y Rihanna Morales, por lo que sin nada más que comentar, pasemos a los titulares del día de hoy, los cuales son matemáticas a todo color. Y a partir de la presentación de este titular, esta edición especial pasará a inglés para aumentar su comprensión por parte de nuestra audiencia de Estados Unidos. So, the next headline is Mangroves, Colorful and Unique Ecosystems. Then, Ecuador, a colorful and multicultural country. And finally, Ecuador, a colorful and touristic country. So, let's start. En primer lugar, nuestro reportero David Hidalgo se encuentra en una comunidad andina para darnos a conocer mayor información acerca de la primera sección de este reportaje. Adelante, David.
Gracias, Emilio. Exactamente me encuentro en la provincia de Imbabura, específicamente en el cantón Otavalo, en una pequeña comunidad hablante de quichua, en donde enseñan una cátedra especial llamada etnomatemática, que se refiere a la enseñanza de matemática en un determinado ambiente natural, social y cultural, mediante la utilización de diversas técnicas y herramientas pedagógicas de acuerdo a la cosmovisión de la nacionalidad o pueblo tratado. Por lo que decidí asistir a una clase de etnomatemática quichua, que es donde me encuentro actualmente. Sin embargo, los estudiantes me informan que su docente se encuentra enfermo, por lo que me han solicitado editar esta clase, y acepté, ya que poseo un poco de conocimiento acerca del quichua, y ustedes, queridos televidentes, se encontrarán presenciando a través de sus pantallas dicha clase. Ayachu Kampanchichit, Wambracuna, Kunam Puchaca Chichuc, Yupaikunata, Yacha Kuntinchik, Shinayatak, Unanchukanakapash, Yacha Kuntinchik, Shina Kashpaka Karishun, Kichuapi Kupashkuna. Shuk, Ishkai, Quinza, Chuspu, Pishka, Suta, Canchis, Pusar, Isku, Chunka, Ajipacha Wampracuna, Unanka Unchakunata, Yacha Chunchinchik, Yapachik, Anchuchik, Miranchik, Rakichik, Pacta, Kuyashka, Wampracuna, Kunam, Puchaca, Chaikaman, Yacha Kunchinchachik, Tikaikaman. Y eso es todo por esta sección, queridos televidentes. Volvemos al estudio con Emilio.
Gracias, David. Fue un excelente reportaje que nos hizo reflexionar acerca de la importancia de preservar nuestra identidad a través del conocimiento ancestral de la etnomatemática y la educación intercultural. Now, let's continue with our next reporter, Tomás Molina, who's going to talk with us about mangroves. So, let's continue. Hi, Tomás.
Hi Emilio, that's right. I am here in the Churuti Mangroves Ecological Reserve, one of the most special ecological touristic destinations in our country, from which I'll present you about this amazing and unique ecosystem. Mangroves are trees or shrubs that grow in clusters along seashores and rivers. They have large and strong roots that can be seen above the ground, which prevent the waves from rising and stabilizing the coastline. These are more than 60 species of them. They can grow in places where very few other trees can. For example, they can grow in salty water because they are able to filter out the salt. Mangroves can be short bushes, or they can grow to about 40 meters tall, and the common one reaches a height of about 9 meters. And finally, their leaves are typically green, and their flowers can be yellow or white. Mangroves are home to a wide biodiversity, but sadly, today we are not able to see these magical species. However, our edition staff will put some images in our screen for you to be able to appreciate the fauna species, in which darkest shells, oysters, and the blue and red crab stand out among aquatic species. Then, the flor de balsa stands out among mammals, and finally, among reptiles, the green iguana, sometimes of turtles, snakes, and crocodiles stands out. Now, here in the place that I am, you're able to see one of the more endemic flora species. In this ecosystem, the red mangrove, but there also exist other species of these plants, like the white, ale, and black mangrove. And finally, I'll present you about the most interesting food web of this unique ecosystem, which starts with the mangroves themselves, a producer, and occasionally phytoplankton. Then it continues with the dark shell and the oyster, a primary consumer. Then the flor de balsa, and the eagle is a secondary consumer, passing through the heron and coast crocodile, a tertiary consumer. And finally, bacteria and fungi that live in the water of mangroves as decomposers. That's all the information that I want to share with you, TV viewers. Now, Emilio continues with the study.
Thanks, Thomas. It was a fascinating report too, which made us reflect that we should preserve our country's biodiversity that is present in our ecosystems. Now, let's continue with the next reporter, Joseph Burgett, who's in the coastal region, specifically in the Santo Domingo province, to tell us about our country's peoples and nationalities.
Hi, Emilio, that's right. I'm here in the city of Santo Domingo, in the community that is part of the Sachel indigenous people, the more representative of the whole region, and whose members talk me about their language, clothing, customs, and traditions. Information that I'll summarize for you. Sachela language is Safiki and is part of the linguistic heritage of our country. Their clothing changes between women and men. The men wear a colorful skirt called tunen and also a beautiful necklace made with endemic seeds, while the men wear a black and white skirt called mampesampa and also the world famous red paint hair. And then finally, their Kasama festival stands out in which Sachelas show their culture, customs, and traditions to foreign tourists. Now, I will magically teleport to our next destination to continue learning about peoples and nationalities. So I arrived here, in the Ndera region, specifically in the Otavalo city of the Imbabura province, where I interviewed some members of the Otavalo indigenous people, and I summarized that information that I will present you now. Let's start. Otavalo indigenous people language is Quechua, and is part of the linguistic heritage of our country. Then, about their clothing, men wear a cotton shirt, white pants, the characteristic dark blue wool poncho, and sandals, accompanied by a brand in their hair, while the women wear a wool poncho with a handmade white blouse, wool black skirt, and a braid in their hair. And finally, their Jamor festival starts out in which chicha is prepared. And finally, I will magically teleport again, but this time to another amazing region of our country, the Amazon region. And I am here, specifically in the province of Zamora Chinchipe, in a community that is part of the Shuar nationality, our last example of the country's most representative peoples and nationalities. Here I talked with the members of that nationality, who told me about the most important aspects of the nationality that I'll tell you now. Shuar language is called Shuar Chicham, and is part of the linguistic heritage of our country. Their clothing consists of a dress called Karachi for women and a skirt called Itip for men. And both wear a crown of toucan feathers. And finally, their Sansa festival stands out in which they reduce and mummify the heads of their enemies and preserve them as war trophies. That's all for this section. Thank you very much, dear TV viewers. Now we return to studio.
Thanks, Joseph. That was also an amazing report that made us reflect that we should have respect for native peoples and nationalities that live in our country, and also that we should appreciate them because they are part of our culture and identity. Unfortunately, we are arriving to the last section of this special edition of your favorite news program, that it's going to be presented by our last reporter, Rihanna Morales, who's going to present us one of the most touristic provinces in our country, with its gastronomy, traditional games, customs, traditions, and popular festivals. Let's go!
Hi Emilio, that is right. As you can see, I am in one of the most beautiful beaches of Manta City, which is located in the Manabí province, an extraordinary tourist destination for locals and foreigners. I interviewed many of the locals about this fascinating province, traditional games, custom, tradition, and delicious gastronomy. And I summarize the results I got for you. So let's start talking about that. Among the traditional games of Manabí are the trompo, the dance of the chase, the dance with a broom, the pan encebado, the blind hen, the egg with a spoon, among others. Then, talking about Manabí's customs and traditions, the following stand out. To have an aloe plant at home, to believe that Sunday 7 is a day of bad luck, to wear charms for saints to perform miracles, to believe that the tides of the sea influence the behavior of living beings, and to organize once a year a popular fair in which agricultural products for plunder and handcrafts are sold at very low prices. Now, talking about the popular festivals, the following stand out. The Chili Gualo, that is celebrated from Christmas until January 6, in which happy songs and Christmas carols are performed, and also the Montubios Festival, in which bullfights and the famous Rodeo Montubio are organized, both accompanied by the reading of Amorfinos. Afterwards, Manabí has a delicious, succulent, and mouth-watering gastronomy, in which typical dishes such as ceviche, encocado, bolones de verde, and cazuelas stand out. All of them prepared in traditional food fire ovens and with typical ingredients such as the verde and peanuts. Finally, Manabi has a wide variety of tourist attractions, but the most visited annually are the Machalilla National Park, that has the cleanest and most peaceful beaches in the world, Puerto Lopez, whose main attraction is the humpback whale sightings, and the Manta beaches that are perfect for practicing water sports. And that is all for this section. Let's finish this special edition with Emilio, that is in the studio.
Thanks, Rihanna. It was an interesting report too that showed us the wide variety of tourist options that our country offers. But unfortunately, that was all for this special edition of your favorite news program, Ed Noticias. If you missed this program, you could check the QR code that is appearing now on your screen, in which you will find our written report. See you tomorrow with a new news program. And remember, stay curious. Bye.